Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to your calendars franchise mode here in NHL 25. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we kind of fell apart near the end. We made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, but managed to lose in Game 7 to the Edmonton Oilers, and it was a pretty damn close series. It's unfortunate we ended up losing because I thought we had a chance to win the Cup this year based on our cheesy record, but you could see it was just a really back and forth Stanley Cup Finals. You could see we won Game 1 3-1, then we lose 2 in a row, 2-1 and 3-2, so 1 goal differences. Then we win a game in overtime 4-3, then we win 3-2, then we lose 3-2 and lose 5-3. So basically both teams had multiple 2-game winning streaks in a sense, and there was a lot of games that did get decided by overtime. So yeah, if we would have found a way to win, like, say, this game in overtime, we would have won the Stanley Cup, but unfortunately, we just could not get that offensive consistency that we were getting earlier in the playoffs. So kind of sucks that we ended up losing in the finals, but it was another good run for this team, and at least this team is still relatively young, so we probably will still have some good runs ahead of us in the next few years. What does kind of suck a lot, though, in my opinion, is the fact that Solovyov had such a great season in terms of his playoff numbers, but he didn't get credit, obviously, with the Stanley Cup win. He had a .922 save percentage, so he did his best work, in my opinion, this year to try and get us that Cup win, but he could not get it done. In that last game, he was probably at his worst, but also in the sense our defensive play wasn't the best in that last game either. So it does suck that we lost in Game 7, but hopefully we could take that as like kind of like our last Stanley Cup Finals loss, hopefully, because we've lost 3 times now in the Cup Finals in this franchise mode. So, but this is the first time with this next generation team, so who knows what's going to end up happening down the road, but I am excited still to see how this team progresses, because we should be getting some pretty good growth this offseason. I'm assuming we should have a pretty solid looking team again next year, so I definitely think we can make it back again next year, and hopefully we're on the right side of it this time if that is the case. But anyways, before we get into the draft and re-sign stage, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about that Cup Finals loss, and then we will get into all of that type of stuff. So the first comment is from Shadow Titan, who says, "What a sad way to start today. Your goalie allowed too many weak goals over the series," and he didn't allow too many weak goals, I would say, over the course of the series. Solovyov, to me, was like the best player probably for us in that playoff run, in that Stanley Cup Finals especially, because he kept us in some of those games, because obviously the Oilers do have some good offensive threats. Well, he at least made it close. Now, our offense was the main problem, in my opinion, because we just didn't score enough goals, but Solovyov definitely wasn't the best in that last game. You can see he had an .861 save percentage, so sure, that's probably a really bad game, but for the rest of that series, he was pretty damn solid. Like a .906 in Game 6 isn't terrible, but he had like a .920, a .925, a .936, a .931, and a .966. So he did his absolute best in that finals. It's just he had to go up against Akira Schmid, who ended up destroying us. And it's unfortunate that was the case, though, because Akira Schmid's a lower-end goaltender than Solovyov is. He's only a 79 overall, but he managed to goalie us. And unfortunately, that was enough for the Oilers to end up winning the Stanley Cup. So hopefully, like I said, we could get back to a Cup Finals again next year, and then hopefully we don't run into a cheesy goaltender. The next 4 comments are from Dylan Burrows. The first one says, "Damn, that last game was tight until it wasn't." And yeah, that last game was, it was like we were down only by 1 goal going into the third, because they scored a late goal in the second period. They ended up getting 2 goals in the third to make it 5-2, and then we scored 1 late to just give us at least something to celebrate about. But it, obviously, being in Game 7 of a Cup Finals, you're not going to celebrate a goal like that. Dylan also says, "Got goalied by an 80 overall, damn." And yeah, that's exactly what I was just mentioning about. Akira Schmid was not doing too great going into the Cup Finals. Like, he had like a 9-0 something save percentage, but he went on to destroy us in that Stanley Cup Finals, and he was the main reason why probably the Oilers ended up winning a bunch of their games, because you could see he wasn't that great in Game 7. A .906 was his lowest, but in every single other game that he played against us, a .938, a .936, a .917, a .943, a .974, and a he played 5 minutes of the Game 1, but he stopped everything he faced. So he literally did not allow a lot of goals in that Cup Finals, and it's unfortunate that we had to run into somebody like him, because honestly, if it was a higher end overall goalie, I feel like we would have maybe had a chance to win. Since he was a 79, it meant cheese, and he was able to beat us because of that. Also, Dylan says Stanley Cup Finals and he doesn't play. You got to send him out there. It's the finals, so he's talking about, I think, Sierra, if I'm not mistaken. Because we didn't play him for one of the games when he was still a little bit injured. I just prefer not to have people get re-injured and stuff like that and miss longer term. It wasn't that much that he missed. Like, I think he only missed like 1 or 2 games. So if we go to game logs, oh no, he missed 5 games. Never mind. But he was playable, I think, by a certain stage. I can't remember when it was, but definitely sucked to lose him for a little bit of that run because obviously he's a pretty good defenseman. He scored in game 1, but it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to stay healthy for most of that playoff run. And lastly, Dylan also says, bring back Jääskeläinen. And now this is an interesting thing. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but I'm not too sure still if I will be bringing back Jääskeläinen or not. I don't think he's necessarily something we need to mandatorily bring back, but I'll get to that in a bit, and I'll discuss my options with the team. The next comment is from Sound Taku. Says, bad time for your offense to start their summer vacation. Not sure what you wanted to do for the re-sign stage, but I think you should go for the potential lowly DFD in the first round. So he's not sure what to do for the re-sign stage, which is not a great thing, but he does say for the draft to go for the lowly DFD in the first round. So obviously the draft is kind of important at this stage to still try and add some more good players, but he's saying to take, who was it? Novoseltsev, I think, here in the first round. So we will probably take him. He might be a low lead. He could still end up being a medium 4. But we'll definitely, hopefully, get him with our selection late in the first round. And hopefully he's decent. If he's not that great, so be it. But at least it gives us a bit more defensive prospects in case we end up losing guys down the road. And the last and final comment is from Michael Dose, who says, it was a great series. I had the blue and orange uniform team winning with a laughing face. And of course, just because both of us wear blue and orange, like the Oilers and the Islanders. So kind of a funny joke there. I mean, like, I kind of expected one of us to win the Stanley Cup too, considering there's only 2 teams, you know. One of us had to win the cup, right? Anyways, with that said, let's get into the conversation about Jääskeläinen. So I do not think we're going to bring him back. This is my, what I'm thinking right now, because basically with our forward group, we are getting guys developing really nicely, and it's guys that are listed as second liners on that third line. So we kind of want to optimize people getting a good chunk of ice time that they deserve. So that's where I think Jääskeläinen doesn't make sense to come back. Now, is Jääskeläinen a great player? Yes, but I think we could maybe get Giordano to kind of simulate close to Jääskeläinen if he's in a top 6 role, and we have a lot more flexibility with our lines. Like, there's not as much of a logjam if we don't bring back Jääskeläinen. Now, what I'm predicting our first lines to be like is basically Frundell, Bjorkstrand, and Mäkinen. Obviously, Mäkinen would be the center, Bjorkstrand would be the right winger because he's a good goal scorer, and Frundell still on that left side. That second line would be Crane, Eriksson, and Giordano. And Giordano would be playing that right side, even though he's technically not a right winger. I think it's still a solid spot for him to play just because he's more of a shooter. We put him on his off wing, that type of thing. Then our third line would be still really damn solid because we'd be moving Leahy up to that third line. He'd be playing as the centerman next to Leeson, and then Cialfido could play on that right wing on that third line. So a third line of Leahy, Leeson, and Cialfido. Cialfido obviously would be getting some power play time still because he's listed as a second line forward. So I think that could do decently. And then our fourth line would probably be Leg, Niilakainen, and probably somebody that we signed, because I don't know if Wallace would play center again. I'd prefer probably using him as a depth forward still. So that probably would end up being the case with that. Now, Leg is also listed as a third line scoring forward, so there is a chance Leg could get into that third line potentially down the road, but I'm not too sure. I just feel like we have too much of a logjam on forward if we bring back Jääskeläinen, because basically it would have to bump guys like Leahy down to like almost still a fourth line role next season if we were to bring back Jääskeläinen. But since we let go of Jääskeläinen, Leahy will get to jump up into that third line because Giordano's jumping to that second line, and it basically gives guys more ice time and guys that we care about more. Like, I kind of want Leahy to end up panning out to being a really decent player. His potential has jumped up to medium elite, and he had a pretty damn good rookie season, especially in the playoffs. So I think he still has a lot of good stuff in him, and I think obviously giving him an elevated role would be a great thing. And then also guys could get more power play time with Jääskeläinen being gone and all that type of thing. Now, Jääskeläinen, like I said, has been really good with us, but I think he's going to cost us too much long term, and I'd prefer to like trust in the system. Jaskline has only played 3 years here, but he has been getting better every single year, turning more and more into that goal scorer, which is really good to see. He was our best player in the playoffs too, which makes it even tougher for me to let him go. But I think obviously having Giordano up there probably would work. Now, the only other option I could think of is if we kept Jaskalainen, would be to trade Giordano away. But I don't know if I really want to do that because he's still a young player. He's only making 3.9 for one more season after this coming year, and then he's an RFA again. Like, we could trade away Giordano instead of letting go of Jaskalainen, but I still feel like Giordano's best hockey is yet to come because he's been getting better every single season. His playoffs were not really that bad. He hasn't been a good defensive player in the playoffs. That's one problem, but he is still 16 points in 29 games, which is not too bad. So I think I would probably prefer to trust him. And even though Jaskline has, like I said, been a good goal scorer, I think letting him go at this point is something that I'm willing to do. Like, I think Giordano could probably be a higher overall by the time he's the same age as well, because Jaskline is 27, Giordano's 23. They're almost the same overall already. So I just think that's probably the way we're going to go with things. So even though we like Jaskline, I think this is probably his last hurrah here, unfortunately. So with that said, let's hop on into the draft and see what we're able to snag up here. And then obviously the re-sign stage will come to the signings when we get to that point. But like I said, I think Jaskalainen is likely going to be heading to the free agent market this offseason. So anyways, let's take a look at this year's top 5. So it's Pittsburgh, Philly, St. Louis, Calgary, and Colorado with the top 5 selections. We don't pick till pretty late, so hopefully we can find ourselves a good steal at that point. Like I said, that DFD, if he's a low elite, that would be nice, but he might end up being just a medium 4. I hope that he is a low elite, though, because I do like my low elites a little bit better. So let's see what the Pittsburgh Penguins end up selecting at first overall. Now, also one thing I actually forgot to mention that I need your guys' opinion still on for when we get to free agency and all that is there is still that young defenseman in Lightning. I think it was a Finnish dude for sure. What's his last name? So I actually remember. Let me actually sort by overall or something like that. Yeah, there's still Lightning in the system. Now, Lightning is still listed as a depth defenseman, I think. Yeah, / top 6 sometimes. He was a top 10 selection. He's 22 years old at this point. He is still got, he isn't actually pending RFA. So one thing I want to know from you guys, since he actually still has trade value, should we be trading him for a 4th line center next episode or somebody for our roster next season or even just a draft pick? Because I don't think he's going to get a chance to really play here, especially with like the fact that we just signed Wilkinson. He needs to find depth defenseman. We already have our defensive core pretty much set up for next season as well. Like, we could get Lightning in and move somebody on the defensive core, but I don't think that's a smart move either. So maybe trading Lightning in next episode would be something we'd look into. So let me know if you guys would bring him back or not. He did play 10 games with us this season. He was not too bad, but he was really good in the AHL, 31 points in 38 games, 5 assists in 9 playoff games. So this guy's definitely too good for the AHL, so he's either going to get dealt or we have to deal with somebody on our defensive core to play on our blue line. So not too sure exactly what we want to do with that, but that's why I'm asking you guys for next episode. If you guys could let me know what we could trade him for if you do want to trade him. If you want me to play him on the defensive core and get rid of somebody else on the defensive core, we could always do that too, but I'm not too sure if that's the right move. But it is hard to get guys like Sierra and Schaefer ice time in that top 4 with the defensive core being the way it is right now. So maybe trading somebody on that blue line is the right way to go for our team, but I'm not too sure. Anyways, let's see what Pittsburgh takes at number 1. They are going to select Eskalainen. So another Finn in the draft. Tony Eskalainen. Center that wears number 69. Nice. He's a sniper. All right. Looks pretty decent. Does have puck on a string. So there's Tony Eskalainen. Philadelphia at number 2 is going to select Burkholz, who's an 80 overall two-way forward. Eli Burkholz. He's got Make It Snappy. Interesting. So it'll be interesting to see which of these two guys become the better 2 players. Obviously, these 2 guys are going to be like going head-to-head against each other quite a bit, so that'll also make it kind of interesting since they're both going to Pennsylvania-based teams. St. Louis at 3 is going to select Gerber, who's an 81 overall two-way forward in the exact same position. So I'm kind of surprised that this guy didn't go before Burkholz, but the Blues might have got a steal there in Marco Gerber. Interesting. 6'4", 199. Pretty damn tall guy. Calgary at 4th overall is going to select Murata, who's an 80 overall medium elite sniper. All right. Looking pretty decent. Let me actually go to the draft class for a second. Actually, maybe not. I was going to look at the draft class and see if there was anybody worth moving up for, but I honestly don't think we need to move up because we have a great prospect pool already. I just want to see what's also supposed to go in this first round potentially. Yeah, I think obviously we got to just take a chance on Novoselicev when we get to our selection because the rest of this area honestly could be like medium 9s. Medium 4s aren't too bad, obviously, but I prefer a low elite, I think. There was also like Nigrin, who's a medium elite potentially, but he also doesn't look that good. So I think we already know who we're going to select with our selection. But let's take a look at Murata in Calgary anyways. Jameson, sniper. All right. And Colorado at number 5 before we assimilate to our selection is Dillman. Ezra Dillman, what a name. All alone he has, and he's another two-way forward. So, good chunk of two-way forwards in the first half of his draft, which is interesting. Or first 5 picks of his draft, I should say. So, a lot of guys that will be on PK units probably down the road. All right, let's assimilate to our pick at 31 and see if we can grab that DFD. Let's see what also went before selection, just in case there was any good steals that we could have moved up to get, but we didn't know about. Looks like a lot of medium 9s and stuff. Wow, that's a really good steal for the Dallas Stars. I wish I would have seen this guy. Antoine Briere, right defenseman, low elite 78 overall. I mean, if I was to draft somebody like that guy, though, I would have to get rid of somebody on our blue line to bring that guy in. But that's a nice steal there for the Dallas Stars. Wish I would have seen about him. But like I said, there's already a logjam on our blue line, so we would have had to trade away somebody on our blue line, definitely, if we drafted somebody like that. All right, let's get to our selection. I don't expect this guy to be as high of a low elite if he is a low elite. Just based on his attributes, I would assume he's probably going to be one of those, like, maybe like 63 to 65 overall kind of guys. He might not be a low elite, so he might be medium 4 instead, but I hope that he's a low elite just because he's got 3 bars so far scouted out. So, Yuri Novoseltsev, welcome aboard. Hopefully you're a low elite. And he is a low elite, 64 overall, kind of exactly where I was expecting him to be. That's a nice little pickup. And that also makes me feel like we should probably part ways with some defensemen at some point, obviously, because Novoseltsev is probably like 3 years out ETA-wise. So we probably want to find a way to, at some point, once this guy starts developing, part ways so he could get into our blue line. But a little bit of a logjam on the defense, but we'll have to make some tough decisions when we get to that point. All right, let's assimilate to our next pick at 95 because we do not have ourselves a second-round pick this year. That's the only pick I think we don't have, so we should be able to get some other prospects with our other picks. Oh, this guy looks pretty damn terrible, but he might be medium elite, which is interesting. In general, this draft class looks like it's not that great. Like, we're in the 3rd round, and there's like supposed to be low top 6 defenders going. So I don't know if we're going to really get anything crazy else here in this draft. McGinnis looks okay. Maybe I'll take him. Offensive defenseman. Defense is not really a huge need for us, but we could always just take another one. Burnett. Honestly, a lot of these guys don't really look that good. This guy looks decent, but he's already 20 years old. That's the only problem. So that's probably why he looks decent. Is there anybody else that I had pinned for this round? I don't remember. There's Savage. Oh, yeah, Savage is one guy I definitely would still take. We'll probably take him like 6th round or something like that. But let's give a chance to McGinnis that he's a low lead offensive defenseman. I don't really know at this stage, but let's just take him. Low top 6D. Yeah, this draft is pretty damn terrible. If you're drafting this type of thing in a 3rd round, yeah, it's not the best. This guy looks like he has the attributes so to be a decent offensive defenseman, maybe in the AHL down the road. So maybe that's a good thing for Bridgeport at least, but not a great selection there. 4th round now. Is there anybody we can find here? Damn, still low top 6Ds and stuff. We might have to just take a goaltender. Robert Nilsson, not the guy that used to play for the New York Islanders as a forward. Different spelling by a little bit. But let's take him just because of the name. Boom. Fringe starter. It's okay. It's okay. He is 19, though, which is not great, but we will definitely take that as well, just because might as well see if that guy pans out. If he goes up to like a 77, he could still end up being a good playoff goaltender, like Akira Schmid, right? So, honestly, I don't mind that selection, even though it's not the highest potential in the world. We're almost near the end of this draft already. Low bottom sixes. God damn. Yeah, this is a really bad class. Let's sort by potential and see if there's anybody I could take other than Savage that might be elite here. We could just take a chance on Seabrook. You know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Boom. Low top 60 again. And another offensive defenseman. What the heck, man? Yeah, this draft is not very good, but like this guy, like I said, even though he's a low overall, he looks like he could be a decent AHL. Like he's got good shooting, good passing, good offensive awareness. So let's just hope that those guys are decent at the AHL level at least, and then I'll be not that bad. All right, now we'll take Savage probably with this selection, and then likely our last pick will be completely up in the air. But Brad Savage, at least we know that this guy's a lowly grinder, so we'll take him. 52 overall. So that's a decent little steal there. Maybe a future bottom six guy for this team. Not too bad. It doesn't have the best physical attributes yet either for grinders. So a lot of work to do for this guy, but will be interesting to see if he cracks your bottom six at any point. And our last selection of this draft is at 223. Let's see if we could find a crazy steal. Probably not. This Hillman guy might be the best option considering he looks like he could be a little elite. 5 years out at 19. You know what? I guess I'll just take a chance that he is a little elite. Boom. Low top six again. Another offensive defenseman. That's 3 of them that are low top 60s and offensive defenders. And look at that. More good attributes again. Not necessarily in the awareness, but he's got good passing and shooting. So maybe those guys become something for the AHL, but I realistically don't know if those guys are going to be good or not. So pretty weak draft class, but we do at least get ourselves Novoseltsev, who should be decent. Savage, I think, is going to be an interesting one. Maybe a good player for the bottom six down the road. But aside from that, everybody's up in the air. Even the fringe starters up in the air. But we'll see if those guys end up developing. Could end up being our worst draft class yet. But let's get to this re-sign stage because this is where it's going to be some tough decisions. Like I said, I don't think Jääskeläinen is going to come back. We got to definitely bring back our head coach considering he just fits his team really well. And he got us to a cup finals, so let's just give him a lot more money just to make sure he accepts. And then we'll bring back Bo Horvat as an assistant because he's been a decent enough assistant for now. And obviously it's fun that he used to play with our team too, so let's bring him back on that. We'll try and bring back our AHL goalie coach too because they didn't retire. We do need an NHL goalie coach, it seems like, so if you guys could remind me about doing that for next episode, that'd be great. Also, I think there was some scout retirements too, so if you guys could remind me about bringing in certain scouts too, just because I might forget completely. So let's re-sign all these ones that are up for renewal, which I think there was a good chunk of them. So Halinica, DeSalvatore, yep, DeSalvatore as well. I have to still wait with that little bit of added lag, which is kind of annoying. Boileau, what about Thompson? Yes, Thompson as well. Trevelyan. Yes. Wow. Damn. There is a lot of them up for renewal. Gagnon? Yes. Damn. It seems like everybody. Okay. What about Clark? No. Mahalik? No. Venkachin? Yes. Okay. Marsh? No. Benda? Yes. I think we need like an SHL scout still from another season ago. And then I can't remember who retired. I think it was a USA scout that retired. If I remember right. So we'll sort this afterwards and see which scouts we actually need so you guys can kind of remind me for next episode. Or I'll do this at the end of the episode if I remember. But yeah, it's an SHL scout that I need, and it's another, USA West scout we need. So if you guys could remind me for next episode, or if I do not do it in this episode, that'd be great, because I honestly might completely forget again. So, all right, let's see, re-sign stage. How much money do we got to spend? $35 million in cap space. Not really a ton of money considering we have a lot of RFAs at the moment. And we do have some UFAs as well. So let's start, though, by going to the unsigned guy in Korolyuk, giving him his ELC because he's almost NHL ready, which is another reason that we should let go of guys like Jääskeläinen because that guy could be a fourth-line center within a year or so. We'll also sign Bigris to his ELC because he's already a 71 at 19, which is not too bad. Rudder's 71 at 21 is actually not really that bad either. I might let go of a lot of AHLers just to kind of free up some roster space. Gentile 68, low top 9. It's not terrible, but a low top 9 potential. I don't expect him to really grow into much, so let's let go of him. Carlson as a medium 4, 67 at 20. That's pretty solid. So we'll sign him up as well. Del Rio is a medium 9, 64, 21. I probably might let go of some AHL defensemen. I am going to let go of Ludeman, who was brought in as a depth option. I think he's kind of been replaced as a depth option anyways, so I think we're going to let him go. He was in the AHL last year, but the year before he was a depth defenseman for us, but he got replaced kind of by Wilkinson in a way, so I think we'll probably let him go. So best of luck to Dennis Ludeman in free agency. Kaminsky could be a fourth-line center almost, or a depth forward, so maybe we hold on to him as a depth forward. I'll think about that in a bit. Prince, who was a first-round pick, he's probably one of the worst first-rounders we've had. That's a tough one. Hasn't been getting as much ice time in the AHL as of late. I honestly might let him go. He's not that bad of an AHLer, but we might need to free up the roster space. I am going to let go of Suhanik, who was our backup last season. He wasn't super great here anyways. We will sign, I guess, Lane into his ELC. So we'll do that. Just because Hainsey's likely going to be our NHL backup next season, so let's sign Hainsey up as well. He wants a one-way deal, so we'll give him a little trial run. And Smits will come back for the minors. There we go. So all good on that. In terms of our RFAs, though, let's go to the bottom of this for a second here. We'll probably just bring back everybody that's AHL that's RFAs, I would assume. Yeah, probably. Lightning's probably going to want a one-way deal, right? Two-way deal still. So Lightning is kind of an interesting one still. I think we should probably trade away his rights. Or not his rights necessarily. Trade away him, though, as part of a deal at some point. Just because I don't think he's going to be able to crack our blue line. Or we, like I said, get rid of somebody on our blue line, and then he replaces them. Just because we do need to get, like, Schaefer and Sierra somehow more ice time. Because they're all listed as top fours. That's one thing we need to look into for next season. Because if every single defender is listed as a top 4, it's really tough to get that top 6 pairing ice time. So it would be nice to get somebody like Schaefer or Sierra pushed into that top 4. And getting rid of somebody that's from that top 4, like Salmelainen or Boyd. But I like those guys kind of too. I'm definitely not getting rid of Houghton, who's our offensive defenseman. He for sure is the one defender that's off the board completely, so not too sure what we're going to do with that. Leahy, obviously, like I said, he's going to be probably our third-line center next season. We'll give him a trial run of a contract, and then he's an RFA still for one more year, so let's give him what he's asking for. Leeson, obviously, I'd like to bring him back. He's, I think, listed as a second-liner. He's listed as a second-liner as an 83. I don't know how we're going to get him more ice time, other than the penalty kill and all that, so hopefully he's okay with his ice time being a penalty killer and also a third liner. Let's give him a one-year deal, $3.2 million. Boyd is going to probably be still in that top 4, but he could be a guy that could get traded away. 5 by 5.925. That's kind of expensive, but it's not bad for an 83. Ciofito, I think, deserves a good chunk of a contract if he wants one, which he wants a 4-year deal, and then he's an RFA still at the end of it. I mean, that's a good little trial run, and he does have the organizational interest. So let's give Ciofito a nice little trial run here. And then yeah, at the end of it, like I said, he's still an RFA, so I should be able to basically get him back for that after that fact. So Makinen's the most expensive one. Makinen's going to cost us a good chunk here. Wow. That's a little bit more pricier than I was anticipating for Makinen, but I do really like how he's been developing. Let me just take a look at his stats the last few years here. Like 79 points, like he hasn't been the craziest offensive player, so it's a bit of a reach, but he's also scoring goals too as a playmaker. And I expect him to get better and better as the years go on. So this might be a bit of an expensive contract right now, but I think it could work out well for us. And we'll probably knock it down by 2 bars, which will definitely save us a lot of money. Because he does have the organizational interest, so I think we could knock this down quite a bit. And it'll definitely not be looking as bad anymore at that stage. Like 9.25 for 7 years for top line guys, pretty basic. So Let's offer him that, even with that no movement clause, and hopefully he accepts that. And then, like I said, with Boyd, I don't mind giving him like a 5 by something, by around this. We could always trade him away at some point if we don't need him, but I do like him. I'm honestly leaning towards more maybe trading away Sierra or somebody on that top 6 pairing. Schaefer could get more ice time by being maybe on a first-line PK unit. It's just really tough to find a way to get everybody that ice time. But for now, I think I'm going to give Boyd what he's asking for. Because I think he's a UFA at the end of the year still regardless, right? Yeah, he is. So by giving him at least some term, we aren't just going to lose him to free agency for a while. Unless we decide to trade him. So let's give him what he's asking for as well. And that's good. And for these guys, now Leg, Nielakainen are going to be not super expensive, but I'd like to bring them both back. Yeah, Leg's a UFA. We probably could knock this down by a bit, because Leg hasn't played that much. He's been a good player, though, in his short span. 2.75 is decent for me. Hopefully we can find a way to get him some third-line ice time. Maybe that means trading away Leeson if Leeson complains about ice time. I'm not too sure, but did really like how Leg, Nielakainen, and Leahy played last year. Nielakainen, bringing him back as an option is also a decent thing. He wants a 3-year deal. But a 3-year deal at something like, let's see what we could lower this to. 1850 is really not that bad for an 80, so we'll definitely try and get him for that. I think I am going to let go of Kaminsky. He could be a decent depth option to bring back, but there's other options probably out there. He's actually a really good AHLer though too, so maybe I hold on to him. He probably wants a 2-way deal, right? Yeah, he does. You know what? I think I might honestly hold on to him as a depth forward for 1 year. Just because he's not that bad. So let's just give him like a 1 year, 2-way deal. Pratt is a depth defenseman. We know he wasn't really working as an NHL depth defender. AHL-wise, he's really good. He is kind of like a leader down there. I wouldn't mind holding on to him for the AHL, because he's not good enough for the NHL almost now anymore. So what is he looking for? A 2-way deal? Yeah, he is. Okay. You know what? I think I'm going to hold on to him for the AHL team just because he's kind of like the captain down there, so might as well bring him back. Prince, I feel like I'm going to let go of. I just don't feel like I want to have too many forwards, and I think he might end up getting scratched. Like, how many AHL forwards do I have in the moment? If we look at like players in the system and all that. Technically, we have 1, 2. Let's see what else we got here. Looking at all the AHLers, 3, 4. Maybe I should actually bring him back, because they are kind of lacking a bit of forwards. You know what? Yeah, I will bring him back, I guess, just because they don't have a lot of forwards down in the minors. And he's only going to want a 2-way deal anyways, so we'll just give him that. Boom. Okay, so Jääskeläinen, we're going to look at his contract in a second, but let's just see if all those guys I gave contracts to decide to accept, because obviously that will determine how much money we have left. So our head coach is back, which is good to see. Bo Horvat is also back as the associate or whatever it was, and Zdeněk Sedlak is back as the goalie coach for the AHL. We got all those scouts obviously accepting too, so a lot of notifications that popped through, but there we go. Boyd has decided to accept that contract. Same with Leg. Same with Leahy. Ciofito accepts. Mäkinen accepts. Kaminsky accepts. Nielakainen accepts as well. Same with Leeson. Latinen accepts. So everybody accepted those contracts, and we're down to $12 million in cap space. We technically have the cap space to re-sign Jääskeläinen, I think. Oh, that's an interesting contract. 4-year deal, so it's not like super long term, but $11 million. That almost uses all the cap space we have left. Modified no trade for the 4 years. Like, it's not like a full, like, we could easily still trade him on that point. But right now, if I look at our forward group without Jääskeläinen, technically, it goes 1, 2, 3, like I said, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then there's some 77s and all that stuff. I think we still have to let go of Jääskeläinen, and I know some of you are probably not going to like that, but I think we need to get Giordano into that top 6 because he's a second-line forward. Ciofito is already going to get demoted to the third line as a second line forward. Leeson's a second line forward on that third line. We need those guys to get more ice time, and the way they get more ice time is letting go of Jääskeläinen. So, with that said, let's do a little salute to Jääskeläinen for his time here. I would bring him back because he's been a good goal scorer as of late, but I think we need to kind of step away from him just to make sure we have the cap space going forward, and then we could also make some trades and stuff like that to rework things if we want to. But yeah, it's a tough one considering he's been getting better every single season. Like when he was with Pittsburgh, he was only like a 20-goal guy, but after he came to us, he's almost becoming more of a 30-goal guy, which is great. Now, it could be the teammates he's playing with and all that, but he's definitely been one of our better players. He's had some pretty damn big game-winning goals, too. Like, I forgot that he had 5 game-winning goals this playoff run, which is absolutely insane. So, he's been a clutch guy. No problems about him, but I think we have to move on, unfortunately. So, salute to Jääskeläinen. Some of you guys might agree with that. Some of you guys might hate this decision, but I think moving Giordano into the top 6 is what I want to do. I don't think I want to trade Giordano so we could re-sign Jääskeläinen. I just don't know if it would work well. And like I said, Giordano could be a higher overall by the time he's the same age. So, Jääskeläinen, best of luck to you in free agency. Maybe you could come back to us at some point. But right now, we're going to let you go. And nobody lost any morale after losing him too, which is kind of surprising. So maybe he wasn't actually that much of a team-friendly player. You never know. All right, so I think we're going to still have a pretty good-looking roster, though, easily going into next season. But we do still have more decisions to make in the next episode, which will be interesting. Decide if we obviously want to run our current defensive core again next season, because it was a pretty good defensive core in front of our goaltending. But we could always make some adjustments as well to it. There's definitely some tough decisions coming. All right, apparently actually the goalie coach did not accept. I thought it did, but it doesn't really matter. We could find a new goalie coach for the AHL as well, just like the NHL team. Let's take a look at what we have again on our roster here. What we need for free agency. So right now, our goaltending combination of Solovyov and Hainsey, I think that's obviously what we got to run. Solovyov has been fantastic in the playoffs. In the last regular season, he wasn't super good, but it still would be good to see him obviously be our starter again next year. Hainsey as our backup is a decent one. He's actually listed as a backup. Has not got to play an NHL game yet, but I think he was called up at one point. But yeah, he was a decent AHL goalie again this season. Only played one playoff game, so he didn't get to play a lot in the postseason. But I think running these two guys obviously is good enough for goaltenders, so we don't need a backup goalie. From a defensive standpoint, this is where I'm still kind of wondering what we do in terms of getting guys more ice time. Like, I'll remove my face so you guys can see it's a bit more in depth. But obviously, Howden is a defenseman I am not going to move at any point in his career. I want him here probably till the end because he's been really, really good. Tatar, obviously, on that right side, I wouldn't move him probably because he's a good right-handed D-man. We have a lot of left-handers. Salmelainen and Boyd are technically right-handers, but they both play left D. We could part with one of them potentially if we want to get Schaefer into the top 4. Now, Schaefer is listed as a top 4 defenseman. He's been arguably one of the more underrated defenders on this team. Like, plus-minus has been good. He's just been a really steady defenseman. So, it would be great to get him into this top 4. But if we did that, we'd have to get rid of one of these two guys, probably. Same what goes with Sierra, though, too, is he's actually listed as a top 4 defenseman. And he's playing on that top 6 pairing. Near the end of, I think, the season, he was losing morale because of ice time. Same with Schaefer. So we do need to find a way to get these two guys more ice time next season, which means we might have to trade one of these two guys to get the more ice time. Or we trade Tatar, but Tatar's our only right-handed, full-on right-handed defenseman, just like Boyd kind of almost is too. So I honestly don't know what I want to do with that. But we should probably have a good mix of lefties and righties. So if we trade away somebody, it would also give Lightning a chance to play on our defensive core next season. So that's where I'm thinking trading a top 4 defenseman might make sense. But we could also trade away Lightning and then try and still run these guys as a top 6 pairing. But it might not be the best option. So from a defensive standpoint, I don't think we really need anybody defensively because Kasivi's also close to cracking our defensive core. Unila could be still a depth defenseman. Wilkinson's a depth defenseman. So I don't think we really need any defenders. We just need to make a trade to get rid of somebody and free up roster space. Because Cassivi, I think, can honestly even jump to the defensive core and be another one of those right-handers on that top 6 pairing instead of Sierra and Schaefer. And then Lightning still could get dealt. So maybe we package Lightning and one of these 4 defenders. And that way, actually one of these 3 defenders. I'm not going to trade Schaefer. But one of these 3 defenders, like Sierra, Boyd, or Salmalainen, package one of them with Lightning. That way Schaefer gets into the top 4, and we get Cassivi more ice time. And that might work a little bit. So that's my guess. Yeah, that's probably what I'd lean towards doing. Because also Sierra is technically the lowest overall, and he's the same age as Boyd and Salmalainen. We could trade away Sierra. And run Schaefer and Cassivi as that top 6 pairing. Get rid of Lightning as well. Like, I do like Sierra, but he's also going to be a pending RFA and costing us more money next offseason. So, the fact that Schaefer's already better and 5 years younger, I feel like it's either Sierra or it's one of these 2 guys. So, I need your guys' feedback on that, if possible. So, defense, we don't really need anything, to be honest. From a forward perspective, what do we got? We got 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we have 13th Ford and Kaminsky, 14th and Lindros. We probably don't need too much in terms of forwards, maybe just a depth forward, because obviously the ice time on these guys is the priority. So I think we'll be generally okay with ice time, but I don't think we really need too much in terms of free agent signings at all this year. We have the cap space if we want to. So let's take a look at the free agents available, because that might change our decisions on things. But let's see what's available, if there's anybody that could maybe help us out or not. But I honestly don't think we're going to really sign too much. We could make trades, though, for players that we need if we want to move 4th-line center, something like that. But for right now, I'm not too sure. So in terms of goaltenders, not that we need goalies anyways. There's some decent players. There's some 25-year-old young goalies like Bergforce. 908 save percentage last year. Ellington as a backup would be great, but obviously, like I said, I would prefer to run Hainsey. Lowly goalie. Interesting. So there is some of the goaltenders available. From a defensive standpoint, 87 at 27 is pretty good. There is also some right-handers, but I feel like I'd prefer to keep our defensive core mostly the same, except for obviously making some adjustments so guys get more ice time like Schaefer and all that. Like I said, I think I'm planning Sierra and Lightning as the 2 guys to get moved. Cassivi jumps to that top 6 pairing with Schaefer. And then maybe we give Schaefer a little bit of an elevated role, like more power play time or something like that. But we also could trade away somebody in that top 4. So Schaefer could potentially move up. It's just really tough to make those decisions. But nobody crazy in terms of defense. But like I said, there is some right-handers, which is nice to see. So there is all that. Then from an offensive standpoint, obviously Jääskeläinen is the top UFA for right wingers. He's got 3 teams interested in him right now. Still trying to get right around the same amount as he's asking for from us. I'm kind of curious on what teams are wanting him. Nashville's apparently the top interested team. And his player request is he's never scratched, which is kind of funny. Because why would he get scratched as an 86? Aside from that, like I said, maybe we sign some depth forwards. And if we do sign depth forwards, I mean, there is like this Reinprecht guy. 18 points last year in 47 games is actually pretty damn good. He's not a bad depth option, but he could end up being listed as a 4th liner, which is not something I want. So there is all that. In terms of left wingers, the best available is this 90 overall left winger that wants $14.1 million. Goddamn. In Travis Sidu. Former Carolina Hurricane. Goddamn. Wow. Wasn't expecting him to be in free agency this early. But we did play him in the playoffs. He's just not liking, I guess, Carolina's playoff success or something. But this guy's a really good player. But obviously not what we're needing, because we don't need a left winger, obviously, with Frundell and all that stuff being already our top left wingers. Shirokov, 83 at 25. That's not too bad, but not what I need on this roster. Langlois, a medium elite, 81 at 25. Former 3rd-round pick. In terms of centers, anything interesting here? No, not really. Robert Thomas is the best at 36 years of age, so that's not great. De Rossier as an 81 at 26. So there is some options out there, but like I said, we're probably just going to need depth options at this point. Just because we have such a logjam on our team already that we don't really need too much else. So there is the available free agents. Actually, let's take a look at the RFAs for fun too, just in case. I don't think I'm going to actually qualify anybody on another team, but still, let's take a look at what there is. So there is this high elite goaltender in Hoyles, who's an 88 at 25. We don't need him for sure, but he only played 10 games last year. So I don't know if he was just a depth option or what, but he did not play a lot. That's weird. Maybe he was a backup goalie in St. Louis. Not too sure. From a defensive standpoint, there is a 90 overall right defenseman. Goddamn, in Kong. Russ Kong in San Jose. Letowski. A lot of these guys would cost us multiple first-round picks, though. So it's like, I don't think I would actually qualify anybody, but it's still fun to look, just in case. Jarvis and Teufel. Acker and Makinen, and nobody at center. All right. Final thing we got to take a look at is the trading block. Like I said, if we do decide to trade somebody on our defensive core, I honestly don't know what we would trade for. Like, we could trade for a fourth-line center, because at the moment, do we even have a fourth-line center? I feel like we don't really have a set fourth-line center yet, right? Because Makinen, top-line center. Erickson, second-line center. Leahy, third-line center. Who is going to take that fourth-line spot? Korolew could potentially if he gets more growth, but I think we need a fourth-line center. So if we are to trade these top four defenders, maybe we get a fourth-line center in picks or something like that. Or we sign ourselves a fourth-line center. Or we use Kaminsky as a fourth-line center. I'm not too sure, but let's look at the block, see if there's anything interesting out there that we could potentially bring in that type of trade. Which probably there's not going to be too much out there. There's probably just going to be veterans. Patton, 28 years of age, 7.4 million. No, thank you. I also don't really want somebody that straps me down cap-wise, though, because we don't really have a lot of cap space going forward because we are signing a lot of our young guys. So I'd prefer not somebody on a crazy expensive contract if possible. So let's see. Unless it's for like 1 year or something like that. Because we do have the cap space for the 1 year, right? But if it's like multiple years, probably not. A lot of veterans. Lucas Dostal's a backup. $7 million bucks. No. Brant Clark still has 4 years left on a contract. Goddamn. No, thank you. That might be an extension that Brant Clark actually got, because I don't think he was making 4 years before. Brock Faber on the block with only 1 year left. Brock Faber's pretty good, but we don't need defenders by any stretch. Like I said, we need to get more ice time on our defensive core. So, a defenseman's probably not what I'm looking to. Unless we're upgrading somebody, I guess. But, Rangers, nothing really there. Yeah, I'm not really seeing too much out there that I would trade for. So, I honestly would probably just find ourselves a fourth-line center in free agency and trade away those defenders for picks in the future. That's probably what I'd lean towards doing. Because I think Kasivi probably will end up being a top 6 defenseman for next season as well. So playing him and Schaefer on the top 6 pairing probably makes a lot of sense. And that way we could get them hopefully some good ice time. Kasivi, I think, is an offensive defenseman as well, so it would give us a little bit more of an offensive boost from the back end, not just relying on Houghton for the offense for the most part. So, and Kasivi's been growing pretty steadily, which would be good to see him on the blue line next season. I mean, there's some guys here that could be fourth line options, but I don't know about that. Winnipeg, nothing there, and that is that. So yeah, I don't really see too much on the block. Let me look at the trade values on this team right now, because like I said, if we are to part with a defenseman, I feel like Sierra could be that guy. We get rid of Sierra. Like, let me just take a look at what the trade value is like with Sierra and Lightning on the board. That's pretty decent. Like, we might be able to get ourselves, like, a first-round pick for the two of these guys. And a lot of teams are going to want defenders probably, too. If we get rid of those guys, like I said, and our defensive core is still as strong because we'd have Houghton, Tatar, Salmaline, and Boyd. And then we'd have Schaefer and Kasivi playing on that blue line. as well. Don't think that's bad. And we could honestly use like Wilkinson as a depth defenseman again next season. So I think that's who I'd be leaning towards training is these two guys. And then trying to find a way to get Schaefer more ice time. So, but in case you guys wanted to see how Cassivi's been in the AHL, this is what he's looking like currently in terms of attributes and why I think he should get into our blue line. He looks like he could produce at a good level. Like he could probably deserve some power play time potentially down the road. He was a second round pick of ours. Already listed as a depth defenseman. And from an AHL stat point perspective, he's been getting better every single year. His first year he had only 25 points, but last year had 47 points. And in playoffs had 4 assists in 9 games. So I think he could literally bring some more offense to our team, which is something that kind of lacks sometimes. And then that takes a little bit of pressure off Houghton, who's been pretty much leading us offensively from the back end for most of his career. So, I mean, Houghton next year could be a Norris finalist, though, because this year he was damn really good, but he was injured for a little bit, and that made him lose it. So, I mean, we do get good offense from guys like Sal Malainen, who's a two-way defenseman and all that, so technically having another offensive defenseman might not make sense, but I think I'd prefer him in the lineup. And then, like I said, getting rid of Lightning and Sierra. Sierra's a two-way defenseman anyways, so we probably would do something like that. Probably. But like I said, we'd probably look to trade for just some picks or something like that. Like, those guys should be able to catch us like a first-round pick, and then we could easily just go to free agency in that next episode and probably sign ourselves like a decent enough fourth-line option for that center spot. So, like, somebody like, if we go down to maybe even somebody like this Owens guy, 79-25. Maybe he's an okay he's a sniper. I don't think I'd bring him in as a fourth-line option. He'd probably look more towards a defensive-minded center. But, yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking on right now. Like, even this Haley guy, he's also a sniper. Goddamn, man. A lot of fourth-line snipers out there. I prefer definitely a more defensive option. Like, yeah, this, like, Delmore guy, maybe not because he's not got the best awareness, but we definitely look for somebody that could win face-offs and play good defensively on that fourth line. So, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Your Calendars Franchise Mode. So, in next episode, we will take it to free agency. Like I said, we probably won't do too much in terms of free agent signings. We'll probably make a trade if you guys think that's probably the right move for our team to make, because obviously, with that logjam on defense, I need to find ways to get guys ice time. And I think that's probably our best bet is trading away a couple guys. So that way we can get some guys a little bit more of an elevated role, more ice time with like special teams and all that. And then hopefully everybody's happy on the roster, because I don't want guys losing morale, dropping off, their values dropping off, that type of thing. So listen down below, and I'll see you guys next time.